On this episode of Law Unpacked.
You don't go and plan to file bankruptcy. You don't go say, I'm going to lose my job tomorrow. So let's plan to do this.
There's been a lot of times I've been on the phone with people and they're crying. And they're at a really loss and despair. We do get those testimonials that people say, I was able to buy a new car. I was able to get a lower monthly payment. I was able to keep my home.
Welcome to another episode of Law Unpacked. I'm your host, Shawn DeVries. Joining me is Shakeerah McPherson, an incredibly skilled and dedicated bankruptcy paralegal with over a decade of experience. Not only does Shakeerah guide our clients through some of the toughest financial challenges they'll ever face, but she also empowers the next generation of legal professionals through her entrepreneurial venture, Bankruptcy Prep School. This unique platform offers aspiring paralegals hands-on training in the bankruptcy process, helps them build careers that are both sustainable and impactful. Today, we'll dive deep into how Shakeerah manages these two important roles, the incredible value she brings to our firm, and the knowledge she's passing on through her educational platform. This is going to be an exciting conversation, so let's get right into it. Shakeerah, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this platform and just be able to kind of allow people to hear more about all that we do in the bankruptcy world. So thank you.
I always say that, you helped me start my bankruptcy career, me practicing bankruptcy law. You've been here since day one, but you were doing it long before I even got involved. Tell me, how did you come to the bankruptcy field and the bankruptcy practice?
Well, it definitely wasn't on purpose. I'll say that. My sister is an attorney, and when she first got out of law school, she wasn't sure what area of law that she would go into. And so bankruptcies happened to be a easier transition since both of us have been doing taxes for so long. It kind of just trickled with having clients that also had financial troubles. And so we decided to go ahead and she started doing bankruptcies. And so from there, I became this hands-on paralegal where we would do intake and get to know the clients and bring them on. And so as the years went on, it just became this thing like, sure, I can do your bankruptcy. I can prepare your bankruptcy because I'm not an attorney, but I do have the background to be able to do it. So then it just led to when COVID happened, you start to think of all the skills that you have and the things that you can provide to others. And I was like, I might as well do bankruptcy a little more than just infrequent. And that is how I found you. I had the ability to work with a company that was intaking paralegals who had bankruptcy experience. And since I've done many Chapter 7s, it gave me the opportunity to do them in multiple states and allow me to just continue to enhance my expertise in the bankruptcy area. So now it has become something that is something that I love to do, but also now I'm at a stage where I can teach others how to do it that are other paralegals in different areas of law.
Why bankruptcy? What draws you to bankruptcy? I mean, there's 100 different areas of law that you can practice, and I know your sister does other things besides bankruptcy, but what got you? Why bankruptcy?
Yeah, and it's so funny because she does not do bankruptcies at all anymore, strictly criminals. But for me, it's seeing people when they are in a financial bind and knowing that you have the ability to help them get out or break free from the headache and the pain of waking up knowing you're in so much debt. And personally, if you were ever a college student and, they push credit cards on you and you're 16 or 17 years old, you can find yourself in a financial strain as well if you don't get that top-notch job out of college. And so I personally also found myself with a financial kind of, I guess, thing that, you're dealing with. And I just like to be able to give people that fresh start. And that's really what bankruptcy is. It gives you a fresh start and it teaches you the principles of how not to get into that financial situation again. And so, I couldn't do family law. That is too traumatic for me. And I couldn't do criminals because it is a lot of bloodshed and, untruths. So bankruptcy is something that I hold near and dear to my heart because it gives people a fresh start to be able to financially succeed. And when you see that their lives are turned around even a year or two after their bankruptcy, I think that's what matters the most for me. So, yeah.
I find that when I'm talking to a lot of bankruptcy professionals and practitioners, that we all have had some sort of experience on the brink of bankruptcy, or, in my book that I've published, we talk deeply about how my parents went through the bankruptcy process and how it really changed my household. And so it's interesting
Yes.
that I find that a lot of people have been really close or have had down and out financial issues that really come back to really give back and help others get
Yes.
that fresh start that they're looking for.
Yes, and if you guys haven't gotten that book, please. He just gave you a quick peek at it, but definitely make sure because that book will at least allow you to see if you're going to. This is something that's right for you, and teaches you a little bit as well. So I definitely think. Yeah, I kind of came into this industry because I know what it's like, and you have to have that empathy with the people that you are dealing with and the clients that you deal with, because bankruptcy is the hardest decision to make, and you consider so many factors like your family, who else is gonna be involved, and it just I always say it is the last resort after you've tried everything, but sometimes it's the best resort after you've tried everything.
That's a great slogan, and I feel like we should trademark that.
All right, don't nobody steal it then.
So walk me through the how you handle our clients specifically, and how you train other paralegals to handle clients from the start to the finish.
I think the most important part is the beginning, which is that initial kind of consultation, listening to the client, finding out what is the reason that they even want to file for bankruptcy. I think that's a big and crucial, important factor. And then you have to see their eligibility. Are they eligible? What kind of assets do they have? Are they homeowners? Are they behind on their car note or behind on their mortgage? Can they afford to fit into a Chapter 7 based on their household, which we call a means test, and or a Chapter 13 because they do have the assets, they do have the income, but they got into kind of a financial situation, or life happened as it happens, and that led them to not be able to pay everybody. So they want to figure out how to pay them in a one lump sum over the course of 3 to 5 years. But we do that intake process, and then we gather the documents to make sure that they are eligible, that they fit the criteria. It is a lot of work on the client's part because they do have to give you that information, and they have to be truthful, because bankruptcy, there is something called bankruptcy fraud, and some people don't always tell the truth on their assets or their income, which can get them in really big trouble with the government, which you don't want. But after we collect that information, we're able to to gather the right necessary documents and prepare them for the process of explaining that if they are following Chapter 7, it can take about 90 days for them to get a discharge, and the do's and don'ts of what they should be doing and should not be doing while in bankruptcy, just so that we make sure that they're following the proper procedures, protocol, and all that good stuff. And of course, afterwards, we're making sure that they have the financial education behind that. They do have to do certifications at the beginning before they file, and they have to do a sort of a debtor education course, so that after they get that discharge, they have the right steps on how to move forward financially. I think the biggest thing about the training of the paralegals is really making sure that they understand the documents that we're looking at, that they understand the pay stubs, they understand the bank statements. And we're not just collecting this and handing it over to the trustee, but we're analyzing this information to make sure that their bank statements do not show that they spent $10,000 on a couch or painting, or that they have accounts in different countries and things of that nature, but that we are doing our due diligence in the law firm or under an attorney to ensure that we're gathering everything and we're allowing that client to make sure that they're truthful and they're providing the information. So I think the first step is mainly showing paralegals the initial piece, which is the biggest, the eligibility, the documentation, and then walking them through the process. And of course, making sure that we have good communication throughout the process, because sometimes it is a waiting game with paralegal, would be doing bankruptcies. And so if our clients know what to expect, then they won't kind of call your office too much, and they'll know that now we're just waiting to make sure that the trustee is agreeing that this client is an eligible candidate and they can get a discharge, or we can set up a payment plan, and we have a confirmation hearing for Chapter 13.
One of the biggest things that I'm most proud about is that we've helped our debtors discharge over $11 million in debt as of today. I can't even imagine what your number is, because I know you've worked at a lot. You've done a lot more bankruptcy over the years, but $11 million of discharge debt is not something to shy away from. What's your process, and how do you feel like that's helped people get that fresh start?
Well, first of all, $11 million is no small feat at all. That is amazing and makes me feel really good inside. Um, I think the biggest thing is we do our due diligence. We ask the right questions up front. It's not just about, signing someone up. We want to make sure that they are a good fit and a right candidate. And then when we see how the just surmount of either debt that they have, and you see people can't find their way to crawl out of a situation. There's been a lot of times I've been on the phone with people and they're crying, and they're at a really loss and despair, and they really just need that guidance. And some clients need the hand holding, and so I think that that's where we do well in is I will hold your hand and tell you, you have access and you can call us and you can ask questions. And we're not just going to sign you up and kind of leave you in the cold, because even gathering the documents, some people get overwhelmed because, let's face it, your average Chapter 7 candidate has not really paid their bills in a while. Sometimes they will send you envelopes that haven't even been opened. So I think one thing that allows us to stand out is being able to be there and hear them and have that emotional support, and offering them reassurance that we can help them have that fresh start and be able to start over. And we do get those testimonials that people say, I was able to buy a new car. I was able to get a lower monthly payment. I was able to keep my home, or I was able to get out of my home and get a nice apartment that worked for me. And so throughout the years, hearing those testimonials, it makes you feel like you're doing your job and you're doing it right. And they are so thankful. Now, of course, we have a few people that may file again after after their time is up, 7 or 8 years later. But when that happens, they kind of come to you knowing where they went wrong, and we all deserve second chances, third chances, and some people do get the third, and we've had presidents that has the fourth and fifth. So so I believe that that's the biggest thing, is that we can hold their hand and we can walk them through the process and give them that reassurance that although this is a stressful time in your life, the freedom that you'll feel and the shackles that'll be off once you're debt free, your score could even go right up after you file bankruptcy, and people don't realize that. So yeah.
It's mind blowing to me that nobody wants to file bankruptcy. We realize this. Nobody put themselves into a position purposefully. You don't go and plan to file bankruptcy. You don't go say, I'm going to lose my job tomorrow. So let's plan to do this. That's just not, everybody wants to put their best foot forward and pay their bills on time, but sometimes they just need that fresh start.
Yeah. And that's where we come in, and that's where they call and and be able to say, okay, now what's next? Because just the word bankruptcy alone is a scary thing. But I do say you are declaring to the government that over the course of this next year or two, you don't have the ability to pay your bills. You don't have the ability to get your debt down, or like you said, you lose your job. That happens. Especially in the economy that we're in. The food and the gas prices are crazy. And if you have children, just trying to find that balance, it can be really difficult. So yeah, the fresh start is sometimes very much needed and appreciated in the end.
So I feel like we do a really good job educating our clients on bankruptcy. By the time they reach the paralegal, they've already talked to several people to help break those misconceptions that everybody has regarding bankruptcy. What are some of the common misconceptions that you still deal with even, later in the game?
That they will never be able to own a home. That their credit will suffer severely, which is not true. You can own a home after bankruptcy, even 1 year after bankruptcy, but you may be eligible for like a FHA loan or VA loan. But again, you want to definitely talk to your real estate professional. And sometimes it can take up to 2 years, depending upon the area that you're in, and that their credit will suffer, which is not true. Although the bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years, your credit score can go up, and you can immediately start to buy secure credit cards. And they even have secure loans out there to help rebuild your credit and get back to a higher space. And like I said, your credit score can go up even after filing bankruptcy, because now if you're filing a Chapter 7, it's getting discharged. So although it's not showing off as paid, it's still it may have a more positive impact. Some people also think that it impacts their children, and that's not necessarily the case when it comes to filing bankruptcy. And unless you have assets with you and your children's name on it, that could have some sort of impact. But for the most part, the bankruptcy is strictly for you. Unless if you are married, then of course, the only impact it can have if one of you are filing and the other one isn't, is that your spouse income is considered for household income. And so some people don't want to file because they don't want to get their spouses involved. And and it will not go on your spouse credit unless you guys have joint credit together. So I think some of those are the biggest misconceptions around bankruptcy.
So what I think I just heard you say is that if they have joint credit together, the bankruptcy will affect the other spouse. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And
And the
how is that?
reason
How does that affect them?
The reason being is because they are 50-50 on an asset. Let's say they both signed off on a vehicle, and they want to file a Chapter 7, but they do not want that. They don't want the vehicle to be in their name. Um, the bankruptcy or filing a bankruptcy can remove their name off of that vehicle, but it will all fall on the other co-signer. So now that
So,
person is strictly responsible.
so you're not saying the bankruptcy is showing up on that co-signer's credit report. What you're saying is
No,
that they now become responsible for that entire debt that was
correct.
co-owned.
Correct. Yes. So it will not show on the spouse credit report, but it will that asset or the value of that will transfer to the co-debtor. But I think a lot of people think that like I said, it affects everybody. I will say though, it does heavily impact the person filing. And so, for instance, if you have a bank account, you have a credit card with them, and you decide to file bankruptcy, that bank can decide to close your bank accounts. And a lot of times, debtors do not know that that's going to happen. So that's why it's important to educate, as you mentioned that we do, so that they're aware that that bank can go ahead and remove them completely because they're declaring bankruptcy on a credit account that they have with them.
That's very good information. With regards to, we talk a lot about rebuilding your credit after bankruptcy. And one of our other episodes, we had 720creditscore.com founder Philip Tyrone on the show. And he was very insistent that it's not about removing that bankruptcy from your credit report. What you need to do is build around that bankruptcy. And you do that by
Yes.
adding the credit cards. And we highly recommend that you check out his program at 720creditscore.com. All of our clients have that available to them, but it's really, we see people buying houses within 3 years after filing bankruptcy. We see people getting vehicles immediately upon filing bankruptcy. So those are always, common misconceptions that we deal with every day. We've talked about redemption. We've talked about getting a new vehicle with a partner that we work with, Ash Auto. We've had a lot of great folks on this podcast and just a lot of information. So even if you don't work with our office, the hope is that you find the knowledge and the tools that you need to be successful with whoever you work with, or even if you file on your own. Moving forward, you've talked a little bit about debtors that don't necessarily tell the truth. How do you deal with those that don't tell the truth and those that go through the process and then something happens that the truth ends up coming out?
Well, the good part about it is you want to make sure you have those systems in place, that you also are having the debtors sign off that what they have provided us is truthful and factual. And we've had many cases where the debtor gets to the 341 hearing, which is where the debtor and the trustee have a conversation around what is on their bankruptcy. But not only that, a lot of debtors don't realize that the trustee has access to pull their social security number and their name and trace anything that they have ever had. That includes the Cash Apps, that includes the Venmos, that includes stock. And so we go through an intake to ask all of these. Do you have a PayPal? Do you have Venmo? Do you have these little penny trading? And then have them sign off on it. So that way we attempted to do our due diligence on our end. And also we do attempt to do a name search in the counties that they have resided in to ensure there's no additional lawsuits or levies or any other creditor information that we could find, in addition to pulling their credit report, combing through their credit report, asking them questions around what's on their credit report. Because as I tell clients all the time, I don't know your financial situation better than you. And that means that you have to tell us account numbers. You have to let us know if you have medical debt that may not be listed on your credit report. And now a lot of collection agencies, due to recent laws, are not listed on credit reports. So it's important that our clients are gathering all of that information, and then we can go back and say, you signed this paperwork saying this is all that you had. Now, unfortunately, it does create more work for the law firm when we have to go back and make updates and changes and what we call amendments to schedules on a bankruptcy petition, which ultimately is more costly for the client as well, because now we're finding out information later that we could have included when we initially filed. So I think it's also being candid and truthful with our clients to say, this is what to expect. This is what we're asking of you. And we're going to have you sign this to ensure that you understand the ramifications if you don't provide the accurate information, because fraud is real.
Yeah, it definitely is. And there could be criminal penalties. You're signing these petitions under oath, under the threat of perjury. And we want to make sure that we're doing our job with due diligence, but we don't want to scare people away from bankruptcy. The idea is that you give everything that you have. You don't withhold information, because if we don't find it, the trustee is going to find it, and you don't want to be in that position.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nope. I definitely don't want to scare anyone, but definitely want to make sure that you are providing everything. And that's why when we get the documents, we make sure we're asking you questions, because you could have forgotten. I forgot what I ate yesterday. So you definitely can forget if you had a bill or a medical situation and you were charged, $5,000, and that was 4 years ago. So just making sure that also we can include all of your debt in addition to any additional assets that you may have.
Yeah, one thing that definitely isn't on credit reports, and we're seeing more and more of, and there's a common trend going around the United States, the buy now, pay later. You have, 90 or 180 days to pay something that, they don't put it on your credit score. So there's no way for us to know without you giving
Right.
it to us that needs to be included.
Yeah. And a lot of times people forget that, and they'll look at the credit report and they'll say, yeah, everything is there, not realizing, but is this all that you're making payments? And that's why when we gather their monthly expenses, sometimes you'll also uncover new information on there, because their monthly expenses may show expenses that we do not have actual documentation for. So it's really about looking for those red flags so we can ask the questions and not the trustee.
You're also the founder of Bankruptcy Prep School. What inspired you to teach other paralegals on how to prepare bankruptcy filings and petitions?
Well, I think over the course of the last few years, bankruptcy filings, I think, have increased more, just due to economy and all of that good stuff. But I think I got the urge definitely when working with this law firm, because I had the opportunity to share my knowledge with another paralegal, and it dawned on me that there are many paralegals that are possibly only in one area of expertise, and bankruptcies to me is not hard to do. And because I believe I'm really good at teaching and really good at explaining in layman's terms, and not all of the legal jargon, that, and I've been doing it for a while. I was like, you know what? There's a need for this. And you even see the increase in companies and just people, just because life is happening. And so I was like, bankruptcy prep school is a something that would really help and enhance. And it's not a lot of programs out there. There's a few, but they're not a lot to teach people how to prepare bankruptcies and do it in a way that can still be interactive, because of course anytime you're talking about any kind of law, sometimes it can get a little boring, and it can just sound like, you're reading from a book. But I'm able to give life experiences and a little bit of humor along the way, so that it's not boring, and that you can follow it. And so once I trained a paralegal that works with us, who has moved up in the company. But once I trained her and seen how she was able to grasp the material, then it dawned on me that I could teach anybody. And if I can teach anybody and also allow them to have supplemental income, because we're in an economy that, jobs are laying off, or, maybe you're stay at home mom, or you work for other, attorneys, but maybe want to do something to kind of expand or increase your income. Being a contracted paralegal for other law firms throughout the country, I figured, the only thing you have to know is that state specific exemptions and laws. But other than that, it's really, the preparation piece is all the same on a federal level. So I birthed the idea and was like, there's a need for it. And I have the skills and tools to be able to really succeed in doing this. So that's how I got Bankruptcy Prep School, aka BK Prep School now, but for trademark purposes.
So BK Prep School, what can students expect when they enroll in the program?
You can expect, so it is training videos that you are watching, and they're anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour each. It talks about the education behind what bankruptcy is. It goes through the extensive pieces of the schedules, how the process, the time frame, what type of documents you need to create. It's literally giving them the whole blueprint of from start to finish on how to have a successful bankruptcy, and prepare clients to have a successful bankruptcy, and ensuring all that is needed for their eligibility. But not only that, you're also getting tools, you're getting samples, you're getting motion samples for things that usually come up, reaffirmation samples. And if you don't know what that is when someone does decide to keep their vehicles, and they are paying on time and they want to keep it, they will have to reaffirm that debt with their car lender, and or with their car lender or with their mortgage company, and be able to keep it. So there's documents, and then they'll also be able to get weekly coachings to just ask questions, and some hands-on to be able to learn how to do it without having an actual client in front of them. So I think it's the whole package, allowing them to be able to do it start to finish and feel confident and comfortable in the process.
What advice would you give someone who's thinking about enrolling in bankruptcy prep school or BK prep school, or to aspiring paralegal about the field?
I think the first thing is making sure that you understand the field. There's tons of things out there that will walk you through what bankruptcy is, how it works. But I think the biggest thing about it is staying up to date with what's happening in bankruptcy. Subscribe to different things like I think it's ABI or ABA. No, ABI, the American
ABI,
Bankruptcy
American Bank.
Institute. hmm Sometimes they have webinars. They also have series. Sometimes you can purchase things on there. Joining even professional organizations, and understand the different types of bankruptcies is really key. And jumping out there, I think that's the biggest thing is staying informed, networking, and then even with BK Prep School, it's just about enrolling. Now it's not free, but there's a cost associated. However, with that, you do get me, and I make sure that you have everything that you need to succeed. Attending seminars. Shawn and I actually went to a bankruptcy conference earlier this year, and that was really informative to know some of the new and recent laws coming up on a federal level and on state levels. And so it's really about putting yourself out there and not being afraid, especially when it comes to learning something new that you're unfamiliar with.
So you're currently balancing two major roles. You're obviously a paralegal in my firm, and you run Bankruptcy Prep School, and I know there's all sorts of other projects that you're working on. How do you manage your how do you do your time management and really are able to focus on all these projects that you have?
Great question. It's not just about multitasking, but it is really about organizing your day. Um, Shawn knows I am a night owl. Currently transitioning to a day owl, which is difficult in my time zone, in my newer time zone. But I would say for me, I try to choose like 2 days, 2 to 3 days out the week that I'm available for the firm, and making sure that I'm staying up to date with our caseload, our cases, the progress, and what's needed, where we are. Sometimes putting out fires, um, and then the other piece is, sometimes you also have to get help. So I'm in a space right now where on the BK Prep side, I'm seeking some marketing help so I don't have to do it. And the goal of BK Prep School is that it's more of an automated company that works for me. And I just make sure that it's being managed properly. So ultimately right now I juggle a lot of different balls, but it's really all about and at least give myself one day. I told myself I'll give myself one day to just have a self care me time, because if not, I'll engulf myself and work 24/7. So
So the bankruptcy field is forever is ever change. The bankruptcy field is evolving. What are some
yes.
trends that you see on the horizon or that you see coming to fruition?
Definitely, we're in a really good technology space. And so right now is the increasing of the use of technology and AI, being able to use it to your advantage. We have Chat GPT. There's so many, honestly. But I think the biggest thing is, of course, not allowing it to do all of your work for you. But now, like, you can create certain templates for letters to go to clients. You can have video, automation. I think that right now with the industry that we're in, it's really about staying up with the times, and making yourself efficient so that you can even automate tasks to do. In the law firm, we use Clio. Right, Clio's a great program to make sure that our clients are paying their bills on time, that they are, being able to, that we have their documents organized, that we can just automate things and make it easier, along with Keep. Keep is a great product as well. No, they're not paying me, but but Keep is another great product as well, because it allows you to be able to have contacts in there. It allows you to automate some emails and documents and So I think the biggest crucial is to stay up to date, especially even in what's happening with the economy. So as we go into another 4-year change, I'll say that there's always fluctuations in the economy. And so staying up to date with what's happening, that could lead to more bankruptcy filings. So it's kind of knowing when we're in that hot season and to market efficiently and get new clients through that. A lot of regulatory changes recently in Florida. We got the exemption change from $1,000 for vehicles to $5,000, which is helpful for our clients that have vehicles that they own outright. And now we're able to protect it if the vehicle is under, $5,000, allowing them to not have to be, over that exemption. So I think it's important to just kind of stay in the know and then just focus on what else is happening. Yeah. Social.
Shakeerah, this has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. Hearing about your dedication to helping clients through bankruptcy and your commitment to mentoring future paralegals. If one of our listeners or viewers are thinking about filing bankruptcy now, what would you tell them?
I would tell them definitely seek legal counsel first, right? The other piece, which you can always call the DeVries law firm if you're in the state of Florida. But outside of that, if you're not in that state, I would definitely say first, look at your income. Look at your income, see what you're making, kind of look at your bills, see what bills you're making, what bills you're paying on a monthly expense side, and kind of compare that. I will also say, if you're going to file bankruptcy or considering to file bankruptcy, you don't have to do it alone. And so you have the support, you have the help. You can always reach out to me as well. I point you in the right direction. But I think that the biggest thing is know where you are before you call anyone. Know where you are. How much money are you making? How many people are living in your household? Are you getting money from other sources? Do you have any other assets? Can you withdraw from your 401k or your life insurance? Things of that nature. And have you exhausted all other options? And if that's the case, you may be the perfect candidate for either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And get the load off, get a fresh start. And don't be afraid to do it because you can recover.
Well, Shakeerah, if any aspiring paralegals want to reach out to you, what is the best place for them to check out Bankruptcy Prep School?
So too, my website is bkprepschool.com. And my email is info@bkprepschool.com. So you can send me an email. Email is probably best because everything goes to my phone. And you can check out, and you can also send me a link or some information, and it'll come to my email as well.
Well, Shakeerah, thank you again for joining us today. How you've combined your passion for law and genuine desire to uplift others, whether it's our clients navigating through bankruptcy or inspiring paralegals looking for meaningful careers, your work is a testament to how impactful a paralegal can be. Not just in the legal process, but in empowering people to build better financial futures.
Thank you. Yes, this actually has been a wonderful, wonderful podcast to be on. And I'm so happy that you decided to bring me on. I definitely think that this industry is it's going to continue to increase. People are always going to need more information. They're always going to need better income, finances, and things of that nature. So do not hesitate to reach out and ask any questions. And this has been a wonderful episode of Law Unpacked.
Well, again, to our listeners, to our viewers, please don't forget to like, follow us, or reach out. I'm Shawn DeVries. This is Law Unpacked. Until next time.